Oh.
Hello.
There it is. There it is.
Your tattoos are actually kind of scary. Like I was looking at them. I know they're. You said they don't really. They're just there.
Yeah. Sometimes I make something up so people don't think, like they think I have some sort of.
Yeah, you got to make stuff up because you
Yeah.
have like an Indian on there.
Yeah, it's all kind of like Native American themed, which isn't my heritage, but I just really liked Western movies when I was a kid, and I just liked the culture, I guess.
They have that kind of stuff in Australia.
Movies, yeah, we got that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can I see your forearm real quick? I mean, like other side. Oh yeah, I was wondering who is she?
Everybody asks me if that's me, and I'm like, I'm vain. I'm not that vain. I don't have myself tattooed on my arm.
Okay, wow.
Who is it?
Just a computer-generated image, apparently.
Just random. You just woke up one day with these. This is what happened, isn't it?
You have tattoos anywhere else?
I got like a real white girl one on my back, and then like a dream catcher.
What does it say? Starbucks?
It's not like a dolphin. It's not that white girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh shit. Okay.
And then my first one is this one on my finger.
Oh, an anchor.
A little anchor, and I just got off a cruise ship, and I had like 10 hours to burn before my flight. So I got really drunk, and a group of people I just met were like, let's all get matching tattoos. Nobody else got the tattoos.
Oh.
You were the only one.
Yeah, I got burned.
Hey, it's a great story. I think Andrew also has one on his finger too. It's the
Yeah.
same
Is that right?
Yeah, it says, it's queso, so cheese in Spanish, because I'm a photographer.
Ah, gotcha.
Say cheese.
Hey, you did a good job with our workout today.
Thank you. You worked me hard.
Yeah, doing some squats and doing some good mornings, and then we finished up with some boxing.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was cool, man. It was something different. Have you done like chain squats and things like that before?
No, I haven't. I feel like I've done lots of variations, but I haven't done hardly anything with chains.
Yeah.
I think my gym's like a little awkward. Like I haven't seen those canvas straps you have with the
Right.
D-rings on them. It's just like a little awkward to set up squats where I train.
How'd you get into lifting?
I wanted to look good naked, I guess. And I think also like previously I'd had like laboring jobs, and then when I went to studying and being at uni, I was sitting down all the time, and I had like energy to burn. At the end of the day, I wanted to like move, and so I started lifting weights. But I actually tried CrossFit first, and I hated it. And I hated the running. And I really just felt like if I wanted to be a fit person who was like healthy and in shape, I had to do some sort of running.
A lot of people don't show up on those days at CrossFit boxes.
Yeah, right.
When they get wind that like they're going to be running, they don't go.
Yeah, and so they stopped publishing. Like if it's a primarily running WOD, they won't publish the WOD on the internet. It's like, I know what you're doing. I'm not coming if it's not up there.
So, what was your job before that was super active?
I was like a builder's laborer for some time, and like just lots of like laboring trade kind of jobs. I was doing like had a business when I was a kid doing like maintenance on farms and things like that.
You had that business? That was you?
Yeah, like
Shit.
Yeah, I had 2 people working for me when I was 11, which is wild. But I was picking up horse shit first, which might be where my poo obsession came from that we'll touch on later.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
But yeah, I was doing that, and then it sort of switched to like farm work and then like building work. And I've got like all the licenses in the world for like earth moving equipment and trucks. And I think I have like 11 licenses or something. It's my little flex.
Wow. Did your parents what did they do? Did they encourage you into all this, or what was the deal there?
Kind of. My dad has like one machine in a truck, and that's his job. But I don't know. I just was always like a massive tomboy, and I just liked heavy machinery. I just thought it was badass, But I think it's kind of like the same in terms of like the type of training that I've chosen is very a male-dominated way of training. I like training chest, and I like, heavy deadlifts, and not so much a booty workout girl.
Is that where your love for motorcycles came from too? Because you're just kind of like into some of these machines.
Yeah, maybe actually. I hadn't really thought about it. I did have a little dirt bike on our like hobby farm as a kid. I rode it around a little. I used it for transport to get to work and everything. But I think it was more like, I remember when I was a kid saying like, when I'm older, I want to have a motorbike just so I can wear like the sexy leathers. Like they look sexy. Now I have a motorbike and I never wear leathers.
Didn't realize you could just wear those anyway.
That's right. Yeah, that's what you
go
do.
for it.
Yeah.
So when you started lifting, tell us about that. You said you started with CrossFit, and I guess what was the journey into powerlifting? How did you find yourself there?
So there was like a gap. Like I kind of gave up. I was like, well, I don't like CrossFit. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be a fit person or a strong person or whatever. And then I was chatting to someone who was like an ex-bodybuilder, and they said, well, why don't you just not do the running part? I'm like, what do you mean? What's left? And they're like, why don't you just lift weights?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wild idea. I'll give it a crack. So I just went online and just Googled like bodybuilding workout, and followed the same program for so long. But I saw some gains. Like I just did 4 sets of 12 of everything because I thought that's all that anyone did. So that's like a really big base of strength to be doing 4 sets of 12s. I was squatting like 2 or 3 times a week, 4 sets of 12.
And this is when like you started with that. Like when you started, were doing that.
Yeah, right at the start. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a lot
wow.
of volume.
It's a great way to start though,
Yeah.
because like you just don't know any better,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh, I think you're just supposed to be this sore.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just the way it is, and your body will adapt to it.
Yeah.
You'll get used to it. You know, when we did today we did the lift through it stuff with you, the commercial that we shot. I really love the stuff that you shared with us, kind of along those lines of, developing some like body image issues and stuff like that. And when you were starting out, when you were first lifting, did you have any of that, or did that develop later on?
No, I think it developed later on. I think as soon as I started lifting weights, I walked into the gym like wanting to like lose weight and wanting to like look better. And as soon as I started, like as soon as I had my first pump, I was like, I want to be jacked as fuck. Like I would rather be shockingly big than attractively toned. Like I would rather people be like, whoa, it's a bit much, you know? And so that was just the goal straight away. I just wanted to be huge, basically.
It's hard to get big.
Yeah, I know. Look at me. I've been trying for a long time and I'm tiny.
It's hard to even like eat enough. I sent Andrew a video this morning of, it's just like these jacked freaking bodybuilders shoveling down tons and tons of food all day long, and they're like halfway gagging on the food, and like it's just one guy after another saying, man, it's just so simple. You just have to eat big, if you want to be big. And it is that simple, but man, it's challenging just as it's challenging to eat a lot less, to be thin or to try to be lean.
Yeah, no, I agree absolutely. And I think too, I think, I started off as an ego lifter and I was maxing out all the time, and then I became like a little bit more sensible in that sense, and now like I would never go off program ever, and I would never like attempt a number that I think maybe I can hit. I would make sure that my program is always like, no, I can nail these numbers. And I think nutrition's taken me a bit longer to pull my head in. And I've been doing like McDonald's every day for like my whole adult life. Like I'm not exaggerating.
You still do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I'm like cutting and I'm in like a pretty hard deficit, I'll still have McDonald's once a day, but it'll be like just 6 nuggets or just a small fries, and the rest will be clean. And so it's just like slowly going from like all junk food to like having a little bit in there to keep sane, to stick to my diet for adherence, basically. But I think now I'm seeing that like, my gains have slowed down. I don't have those beginner gains anymore. And hypertrophy is getting harder and harder. And I think it's just because I just don't eat enough protein, man. Like I need to eat so much more protein. So I find that it's taken time, but I'm finally pulling my head in and actually trying to nail nutrition a little bit more.
It's hard to eat meat after you eat French fries,
Yeah, that's right.
Like
yeah.
it's just not that appetizing when you have those different flavors.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
It is easy to eat more though, more of the fries with the hamburgers.
For sure.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
I don't know if I missed it, but like what were the body image issues that you did have when you when you started lifting? You said you developed that after you started lifting?
So I had anorexia in 2014.
Okay.
And I was quite unwell.
Got
And it happened really quick, and I got better really quick. And sometimes I'm a bit hesitant to talk about it. Not because it's personal, I'm really happy to like share it, but just because sometimes I feel like I don't feel like it affects me anymore at all. I don't feel like I have a single disordered thought in many, many, many years. And I feel like people comment on my things saying things like, oh, look at this girl, she's so strong and she's overcome all this to do this. And to me, it doesn't feel like there's a link. I don't feel like I deserve extra props because I used to be unwell, because I'm not unwell now.
I find that really interesting. That's actually kind of cool, though. I agree with you. Like sometimes somebody overcomes like a drug addiction. You're like, oh, that is great that they did that, but
yeah,
they fucked themselves over and got themselves into that spot. Not to be, not to be like not compassionate towards that, but
no.
But I agree. And so like, yeah, you don't feel like you deserve anything extra special because you had a disorder that you fell into.
Yes, absolutely. But if it was affecting me every day, if every day I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, I just want to be skinny, but I'm fighting it to get big and strong and whatever, then that's great. That's like requires some strength on my behalf. But that's not how I feel. I don't wake up every day wishing I was thin.
And you kind of don't like, I'm guessing you don't want it to like define you. You don't want everyone, every time somebody thinks of you, they think about that, right?
Yes, exactly.
I get what you're saying.
I applied for, there's this really great movement about women in sport where I'm from, and they had TV ads and stuff, and I thought like, oh, it'd be cool to like talk about women in sport and to be like, there was no one doing strength stuff, there was lots of athletics. And everyone had a sob story. And when I kind of contacted them about it, they were like, yeah, come and tell your sob story. And I was like,
They legit said sob story?
they didn't use those words.
Oh,
No,
okay, okay,
I'm
okay.
paraphrasing.
I got you.
Overcoming adversity and whatever, right? Which is great and it has value. But I didn't want that to be the only reason that I'm worthy of being, like what I'm doing. Like, I think what I'm doing is cool. I think I'm strong for anyone, not just for someone who used to be unwell.
Yeah.
Strong for a girl.
Yeah, that's it.
When you started lifting, you said you wanted to be like the most jackedest, right? So were you training partners? Like, did you have a lot of female training partners or a lot of guys? How was that?
No, I was pretty much on my own. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, and I didn't really know that like the way that I was training was so male dominated. Like my favorite exercise was chest fly. Do you think I can get my female athletes to be doing like training chest? They hate it,
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I always use like cable kickbacks as an example. Like I would just never do that because I don't understand the big booty trend and I don't want to have a big booty, I just want to be able to do cool shit. And like
a lot of girls don't even know much about getting a pump.
No,
you
that's
know,
true.
a lot of them don't, just because like they're training for different reasons. They're training for powerlifting, and when you don't have a lot of muscle, you don't know how that feels to have your arms or your quads or your chest like in excruciating pain because there's so much like blood volume running through there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's cool that was a goal of yours, is to work your way towards that. I think everyone should work their way towards it. I think it would help with sports performance. I think it would help in terms of like bodybuilding, learning how to contract and learning how to flex, your left bicep, and learning how to, flex your left hamstring. And I think it pays huge dividends in being able to control your body and learn how you're supposed to flex.
Yeah, yeah, and you can, like you said, you can apply that to so many things. You can apply that to boxing, which we did a bit of today, and it's coordination as well. And it takes time. Like I remember, it was like one muscle group at a time that I sort of accumulated the skill set to be able to contract. I remembered like the bicep was first. Like the bicep's very easy to contract.
Yeah.
And then I remembered like my hamstrings were so hard, and like rear delts were so hard, and it was like years before I was like, nah, I'm nailing my delts only now.
So how did you I guess, looking at that process, what is it that you did to focus on that when you were like working out? Were you like, I don't know, did you develop, I guess what I'm trying to say is postural issues with your rear delts or something? You're like, I got to work on these more. Like, what did that work out for you?
I think that at first I was doing exercises not knowing which muscles I was really using.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I feel like I probably was doing rear delt flies, not knowing anatomically what a rear delt was, But on the other hand, like, and this isn't a very good advertisement for coaching, which I offer, but I think that a really good example I like to use is a lat pull down. I know now that I was doing it wrong. I know now that my shoulders were protracted and I was like, my shoulders are high, I'm doing it wrong.
Looks perfect to me.
But but my back got strong because I was pulling and I was pushing myself. It was hard.
Yeah.
And RPE was high and I was pulling weight towards me. So my back got stronger, and I think that's an example of something where you're probably not going to really hurt yourself. It's just suboptimal.
Actually, also along with that, did you notice when you were lifting, you said you were trying to like lift heavy all the time. Did you lighten up loads and feel certain muscle groups better, or did you just continue the heavy lifting type of thing?
I think I was just heavy lifting. I think I was accidentally applying progressive overload. I think I would do like sets of 12 dumbbell presses. And then I'd be like, these are too easy now. I'm able to do 15. I'm going to do 15. And then when they were too easy, I'd put the weight up and go back to 12.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know what the term progressive overload was, but I was using it,
That's awesome.
How would somebody know that they have an issue with themselves? Like, it seems like you don't have an issue with yourself at the moment, but everyone's got like some issues with themselves. How would somebody like identify that they have a problem? Does it need to be called to their attention by somebody else, or can you kind of like self-actualize it? Can you identify like, man, like I'm really not eating, I'm not doing, how would somebody make sense of it if they're in that predicament?
I think like I think a disorder and just being down about yourself are two very separate things. But I think that you have like a self-confidence issue if you can look at your flaws and it changes your mood. I think that like I look in the mirror and I see cellulite and I go, ugh, it's not nice. And then I go on with my day. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect the rest of my day or my interactions. But I think if that's what's getting you down and maybe it's changing your behaviors, maybe you're having like restrictive behaviors or whatever, definitely. But I think in terms of actually having an eating disorder, I haven't heard anyone who was not in denial at the start. Everyone's in denial and people are telling you like, you're sick. And you're like, no, I just want to look better and it's working and I look great and I'm going to keep looking better and better, and Yeah, I think, and you're like proud of yourself for like the discipline aspect of, you know, I hate running and I was running 6Ks a day and, you know, good for me. Like, or, you know, I love McDonald's and I haven't eaten it for 2 weeks. Like,
It would be very hard to identify because, you know, who's telling you that? Like a lot of other people, I'm sure it's people that care about you and people that love you, but it's also people that maybe don't have discipline with their nutrition. Maybe they're not that into exercise. And so you're like, you just don't understand because I love to exercise and I love to eat this way. So I am making myself look better and you're just being jelly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think now it's really hard. It's taken my parents, like, I've been powerlifting competitively for around 2 years, and it's taken my parents all this time to recognize that, like, when I cut weight, even if it's aggressively, the mindset is okay. Like, I'll admit that I've crash dieted to make weight and that I have been unhealthy in the ways that I've made weight for competitions. And I've lived and I've learned from those. But I can see them get anxious. Like, you know, if I have ab veins, like I'm lean, you know, I'm really lean when I'm competing. And I can see my parents go like, oh man, here we go again, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just reassure them that like, it's part of my sport. It's what I do. It makes me more competitive. And then they see me put the weight back on afterwards in like a safe, controlled way. I'm very in control. I feel like within the kilo, I'm in control of my weight all the time now.
So what did, okay. What did bring this control for you? Like, how did you get to that point where like you overcame it and it's nothing anymore?
I think like giving up on trying to control it put me back in control because I feel like I was so like, oh, I'm going to restrict so hard. And then if I fail, I'm so down on myself that I want to restrict harder. And I feel like you guys might laugh at this, but when I started powerlifting and I chose that's what I wanted to pursue instead of bodybuilding, I feel like in terms of nutrition, I was just throwing in the towel. And I was like, oh, I'll just never be lean. Might as well get strong.
So you were doing like bodybuilding focused, I guess, for sport before the powerlifting?
No, like I was just trying to get big because I wanted to look big.
You were physique focused.
Yes, I was. And then I was like, now I want to compete in something. Should I choose a bodybuilding show or should I choose a powerlifting meet? And I chose a powerlifting meet because I thought I couldn't diet. But then as soon as I did a powerlifting meet and I looked up the numbers of like people in Australia, I was like, man, if I dropped a weight class, I could go to nationals. And I just heard of this sport. It was wild. So for the first, I tried to lose weight my whole life, never succeeded except for when I actually had anorexia. And then for the first time in my life, I just dropped like 6 kilos in like 8 weeks because I was so desperate to succeed at powerlifting that I just nailed my diet for the first time ever. And
nowadays, when you have, you know, an issue, you're like, oh, I got extra love handles or I have cellulite, or what's the dialogue now? Is it more like, I don't want to go through what's necessary to get rid of it, so I don't really care about it that much. I'm just going to kind of laugh it off. I'm happy with the way I'm eating and I'm happy with my health and I'm happy with my performance in the gym. Is it kind of more that mindset?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like a priority thing. Like, it'd be great to be a 10 and to be super hot and whatever, but like I'm not going to be remembered for that. And I think too, I think I have excellent self-confidence, and I think that I have a lot of things going for me. And I think that if I look in the mirror and I don't like what I see, I'm like, yeah, but I have X, Y, and Z going for me, and they're probably more important than the way that I look.
You know, I think what you just mentioned there in terms of powerlifting versus bodybuilding is so important for people to, I guess, listen to, especially if they might be going through something like that, because I work with bodybuilders, and I've worked with bodybuilders who, like, after a show, they can't let go of being lean to an unhealthy point, especially like, even physique guys, bikini girls, they can't let it go. And then when you try to get them to eat more and gain some body fat so they can get healthy, they start thinking they're fat. And that's why they do show after show after show so that they can maintain that leanness. But then they give themselves a reason to stay lean by continuing to compete, even though it's so unhealthy.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think too, when I rebounded from anorexia and put the weight back on, because it was in my best interest to do so, I worried that people would look at me as like I failed, like I did really well to lose the weight, and now I've slipped up and I can't maintain it and I'm failing and I'm putting on weight. And I think being around athletes so much who understand that that's not the case when you put on weight after a meet or a bodybuilding show even, that's made me feel really good about myself. Like, I'll take my shirt off to train in the gym and I'm not sucking my gut in like I would have if I was at the pool when I was 16. You know, I'm not sucking it in. I'm there to train and be an athlete. And I know that people around me understand that. They don't look at me like, gosh, she's let herself go. It's like, okay, she's a little while out from a meet. You know, and people will say that to me, and it's not offensive to say like, "Oh, you look strong," and they mean like you look heavy. You know, like, well, you're not competing for a while.
And that's the great thing about like powerlifting powerlifting or strongman or any of these sports, it's because like everything you're doing is to be strong. You know, you're not trying to just get lean for getting lean's sake. Like you're trying to do it so you can be strong at that weight. So it's you're not focused on your body or the way you're looking. You're focused on athletically your performance, and your body is going to reflect it. It's healthier.
Yeah, sure. But I'll be the first to admit that, like, I don't know, I worry that people will think that this is vain, but I'm a fitness model. It's my job, and I get a salary for doing so. And so it's my job to, like, be somewhat aesthetically pleasing. And I'm the first to admit that if it wasn't my job, I probably would have gone up a weight class by now. And that it's inhibiting my total. It is trying to stay lean, or at least being lean once a year, you know. But it's my job, and I love my job. So it's a sacrifice that I'm making. So I think I'm definitely sacrificing some athletic performance for aesthetics for the sake of my business and what I do for a living.
Did you get diagnosed with anorexia? Did you go to like a doctor or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't think I would fit the criteria because, like, I'm in denial, you know.
Did someone force you to go?
No, it was like coming out as gay. I invited my family. My parents are split up and they get along really well.
Yeah.
And I invited my whole family, my siblings, their partners, everything for dinner at like my sister's house. So it was like neutral ground. And I was like, yo, what's up? Like, I've started treatment. I've been bulimic my whole life and now I have anorexia. And they were just kind of like, all right, what are those things? Never heard of those things. Like, and yeah, so I actually don't know. I don't remember what made me go, all right, shit, I'm going to get treatment. You know, I know that like there was an acute hospitalization when I collapsed at my mum's house, and that led us to the emergency room. But I think I was already getting treatment like once a week, seeing a therapist then, which I found somewhat helpful. But yeah, it's hard to go because you're like, I'm going to go here and this person's going to tell me I have to eat more and gain weight. And you're like, I know that that's what the world wants me to do. I don't need to pay to be told that, you know.
And how did your family take it when you told them?
My parents were a little bit upset because I told them that, so I'd had bulimia my whole life, but it was very manageable. Like, it wasn't taking over my life. I wasn't even really binging and purging. I would just kind of like eat something, feel bad about it, and vomit it up. And the crazy thing is that I genuinely thought everyone did that. I thought it was like shitting yourself. We've all done it. We just don't talk about it. No one wants to hear about it, you know, like vomiting is gross. So I really thought everyone did it. And then one day I remember telling a friend at school, like, oh yeah, I'll probably vomit this up. And she was like, what? It's like, oh, damn, nothing. And so I think they were really upset that they hadn't seen the signs, you know, that they hadn't noticed. But I was so sneaky, like so sneaky. You know, I remember I was doing sit-ups in my room in the dark. I was getting up at like 4 a.m. to go for a run in the dark. And when I was like 11.
Damn.
You know, yeah. But these were like, I'm making it sound worse than it is. These were like a few little things, but maybe like one symptom at a time over many, many years, you know.
Was there anything like when you were a kid that you think like, oh, that kind of maybe that made you have that mindset? Yeah. Was there anything at all? Or
I don't think so. Like, even when I went to therapy, they said, would you be interested in having your mum come in? I kept talking about how I felt guilty. I felt so guilty for having anorexia because my mum just blamed herself. I think a lot of parents do that. And they just think it's all their fault. So they brought my mum in, and don't get me wrong, there's no right or wrong way to parent, but they were like, you have ticked all of the boxes. So we ate really healthy all the time, and then once a week we'd have like a McDonald's night, and we'd have like get some snacks and watch movies as a family, and like maybe like special occasions like birthdays we had cake, but you had one bit of cake and you had one soft drink when we went out for dinner, and the rest soda when you went out for dinner, and then the rest was water, you know. And I remember one day I was putting butter on my toast. And my dad said, and don't judge my dad, he's just a man who just doesn't know much about women, you know. But I was putting heaps of butter on my toast. And Dad said, whoa, hold up. Like, you know, that's really fattening. And my mum said, don't tell her that. You should tell her that it's bad for her heart, not that it's going to make her fat. That's what she should be worried about. Yeah. Like, what an intelligent thing for my mum, who's not in the fitness industry, you know. And even like, it was like 10 years, this is 10 years ago, before we were really aware of like all the body image issues so much. Yeah. And whatever. So I feel like they did all the right things. But my therapist really described it as like getting brain cancer. Like, yeah, there are some genetic factors that can happen, and there are some like traumas that can happen in your life that can contribute to it, but you can just fucking get it. It's just bad luck, man. Yeah. And that's what I feel like.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever worked with clients that have issues like that?
Yes and no. More so, I don't think anyone comes to try and get strong while they're unwell. I think that they, when they're recovering, they do. But yes, absolutely. People who have recovered, and some have known about my health history and some haven't. And I have speculated that my clients are experiencing such a thing. And I've had a radar out for it, and I've just kind of known like what questions to ask that aren't so direct. Because confronting having someone tell you that they think that you have an eating disorder.
Now, with that being said, because I've actually had to work with somebody like that before, how would you suggest a coach do that if they see like these warning signs, right? If they see these things happening with the client, how do you think they should approach that? Should they even work with that individual, or like how should they try and help this person?
Yeah. I think like keeping them safe in the gym is the first thing. Yeah. If you think that they're like that unwell that like they're at a risk of fainting or whatever, which has happened to me in workouts, I think that you just need to keep the intensity low. I think that just telling them you're not fit to train, you need to go away, is not a good way to isolate someone who is unwell. But in nursing, if you suspect that a child is being abused or that there's something wrong there, you have like a mandatory reporting law where you have to tell the parents. I honestly think that even though it may be a little bit of a breach of confidentiality with your client, I think that if you have access to someone that they know, like a parent or a partner or something, I think flagging it with them is the best way. Because the more people who are aware of it and are monitoring it, I think the better.
Okay. So even I guess that actually falls into even if they're an adult. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah. But
okay.
I think if my PT had told me, I think you have an eating disorder, I would have gotten the hell out of there and not come back. Like, because that's so threatening. Like, you know, you want to be under the radar. You don't want anyone to notice.
I think that's interesting. You said you haven't had a lot of people come to you to get stronger when they're unwell. I think a misconception about fitness and a huge misconception with weight loss in general is that you're going to lose weight and be healthier. And that's the worst. That's not a good place to start.
No.
You know, you need to be healthy in order to lose weight. You need to get your body, you need to get some momentum going in the right direction. And so that's why we see a lot of people that have kept the weight off. They'll say the simplest thing. You say, "Oh, where'd you start?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I started walking."
Yeah.
You know, or
walking around the clothesline.
You know, I got rid of soda. You know.
Yeah, one
thing at a time. And they made these kind of like small little things, and then they created a architecture that was actually strong enough to build something off of and to have something be sustainable and repetitive. And when you try to look at it from a perspective of I'm going to lose weight and be healthy, I think a better perspective is I'm just going to eat to be healthy. And then from there, I will worry about losing weight some other time.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you did with attaching yourself to strength. I'm going to attach myself to performance, and I'm going to worry about the body kind of secondary, but your body just got better anyway.
Yeah.
As a result of focusing in on being stronger. Yeah,
I agree. And I've had like some of my clients are also personal trainers, and they've said to me like, I want to start strength training because I feel like if you're strength training and you're working hard, everything else just falls into place. And I really agree with that. Like if you have a really hard workout, like I don't really feel like binging on disgusting food. I feel like an athlete, and I feel like I want to fuel myself as such.
Yeah.
Maybe some disgusting food.
Yeah, right. A little, yeah.
By the way, so the McDonald's everyday thing, is that like just kind of a little ritual you have for yourself?
Yeah. How do we be part of this?
Hey, I got no problem with it, by the way. Just like tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was always ashamed of what I ate, and I want people to know, like I thought that made me weak, that I couldn't like resist that food or whatever. But I think now like I just see it as like I enjoy it. I don't know. Some people might go out and get wasted on the weekends, and they know it's not good for their body, but they just enjoy it and they want to do it. And so they're an adult; they can do what they want, you know. And I don't know, maybe some people like use party drugs or PEDs or whatever, and they know that it's like cutting down their life expectancy. And I just sort of feel that way a bit. But I mean, I will admit that I'm a little bit hesitant to like change my diet overnight, because last time I did that, I nearly died. So you know, so I feel like if I can, it's slowly becoming eradicated from my diet. So it might be just a maturity thing, just because I'm getting older, maybe.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, so in comparison, you had In-N-Out for the first time today. What did you think?
Wild. Loved it.
Yeah.
It was great.
Out of 10, compared to like other burger places you've been to?
Look, to be fair, it was cold.
Yes.
I ate it cold. So it's hard to judge the fries. But I think the fries were like a 6 out of 10, and the burger was probably a 9.
Nice.
I think American food is like Australian food, but with like 10 times as much fat, sugar, salt.
America.
It's like, yeah. It's like,
but you're getting there though, right? In Australia?
with what, sorry?
You guys are getting there in terms of like people being fatter and just more grotesque and abundance of food, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't understand it because
exciting.
why is the health industry booming at the same time as
I
like
know.
our obesity epidemic?
Well, because they both need each other, right?
That's
yeah,
true.
It's true. But I feel like it's so trendy to be like fit and healthy and like
Make people
you know.
unhealthy and confuse them, and you'll have a huge market of fitness, you know?
Yeah, right.
But like from what I've seen, and we've talked about a lot of what we think, what we see about Australia and the media, it seems that like everyone is just like healthy over there. That's what it seems like. Am I wrong?
That's racist.
Because no, like no. Okay,
Mark feels personally attacked.
Am I tripping from like, because like whenever I see
No, you're very right. Yeah.
right? You just think Australia is this place with everyone has six packs, they're tall or
They
not.
surf and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that the only people that get publicity are hot people. No one wants to see ugly people. So how many ugly people do you follow on Instagram? You know, and I think it's the same. We say that about
They follow me.
they're in my DMs. I don't go any further than that. But it's the same with like the gym that I go to. People say like, "Oh, I'm not going there. Everyone's so strong. Everyone's so strong." And I'm like, "Yeah, the strong people have followings, and you see them. You don't see Joe Blow, who's a lawyer, who comes in and does a few curls and goes home." Like, and I think that might be what you're referring to.
I got you. How about actually a gym? You own a gym, and I think you started a gym kind of young too.
Not really. I just not that long ago started. So it's like a little PT studio. So I've got like calibrated plates and like powerlifting gear in there, and it's actually a 40-foot shipping container that I've converted, completely lined, and it's like very aesthetic boutique kind of space. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So I personal train out of there like only like 10 hours a week. I don't want to do much more than that, and then I rent it out to other personal trainers when I'm not there.
Wow.
And it was supposed to be to film content in, but I'm lonely there. I want to go train with my friends.
How long have you had that place for?
Not quite 12 months. Yeah, about 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah, but I love it. It's so cute.
That's awesome. How about competitions? Because like you said, you started competing 2 years ago. So when you were on your lifting journey, I guess what encouraged you to be like, I want to compete in this too?
I think I was like lacking purpose. Like I was like, cool, I'm going to the gym, I'm seeing results, but like for what? Like, and how do I measure these results? And I just I heard about powerlifting, and I think a lot of people, would you guys agree, get into powerlifting because they start going to the gym because they want to look better, and then they accidentally get strong, and they're like, I want to show that off on a platform, right? And I think that was the case for me. Like I squatted 100 kilos, and I was like, oh damn, I want more.
What was your weight when you did that too?
Probably about 65 kilos, maybe.
Damn, okay.
But this is like beltless, high bar. Like, yeah, it would have been pretty ugly, I'm sure.
Did you kind of check out the competition to see where you ranked? Like that's a lot of people will kind of poke around and see like, am I going to like be totally embarrassed when I go lifting it? Like, are the other girls going to squat 550 pounds and I'm going to squat 200? Did you kind of check out the competition before you entered in?
No, not at all. And the gym that I go to does have lots of really strong women in it. So I went there and I was like, oh, I'm not that strong. Like I got some work to do. These girls are really strong. And then I went to the novice competition and I went straight from like a 12-hour night shift and went there and I was like dying. And I think I beat all of the women in all of the weight classes and 5 of the men. And I was like, oh, damn, maybe I'm strong. So that was like my first meet. And then I think like I'm estimating time frames here, but then about 6 months later, I was at Nationals and I came 4th at Nationals in a weight class below. Wow. So it happened really quick. And I was like, man, I'm going to be an elite athlete. Like I'm 4th in the country and I just heard of this sport 8 months ago. Like I'm going to be amazing. And then it's been like setback after setback. And now I'm just like another powerlifting peasant.
It's hard. Powerlifting is really hard. You know, it's not too bad to be good at powerlifting, but it can be really brutal to try to be great at it, to try to get to that next level, you know, to try to get to the next 30 pounds that you might need on your total or something like that. That's where the injuries start to kind of rack up, and just not being patient, you know, it takes so long to be really good at it. And even if you're gifted at it, you're going to be gifted on a couple things, and then you got 3 lifts to do, and something's going to be kind of shitty, and it's just a tough sport. And then the commitment to the weight gain and things like that is that makes it a lot harder too, you know, because it's just like, well, I could just kind of chub out and keep getting big and keep lifting more weight, but not everybody wants to do that either, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree, definitely. And I think too, like, it's a bit disheartening when like you have the beginner gains at the start and then you have the beginner gains and then you switch to like more efficient powerlifting movements. You know, you bring your bench grip out and you start like retracting your scaps and you build in an arch and everything. And then
you get a nice boost from that
alone,
you do.
Right? Yeah. And you stop snatch gripping your deadlifts like every bodybuilder does.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh,
This
look.
is
We've
is
got
really nice.
my business Instagram up on the Facebook up on the screen.
That looks cool.
This is my little space. Cool thing about powerlifting is it's all in one freaking spot, so it's like a small space.
Is
And
that a grass wall?
Yeah, it's a cool little backdrop.
Got some plants in there.
Dude, that's a beautiful spot. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, man.
Wow.
The storage containers in Australia are different than they are here. Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has had a hell of a glow up, but
Yeah. So actually, on the note of setbacks, what exactly happened? Like, what happened to you?
I don't want to bore you because there's nothing more boring than hearing about someone else's injuries. But I just had like a
okay.
lower back injury just from squatting, and my squat's gone backwards. But my other lifts have been coming up, and yeah, it's not a big deal. But yeah, my squat's dog shit at the moment.
Okay.
You were mentioning earlier, that your dad may have not approached certain things the right way, but your mom did, and maybe she offset some of that. After going through the things that you've gone through, what do you think would be a reasonable way for a parent to approach talking to a child? And additionally, what in your mind is wrong with just saying, hey, that's going to make you fat? Because being fat is very limiting, I think. I think it puts you at a disadvantage in life.
I
It
agree.
really does. If you're like 50 pounds overweight and you're 10, it sucks, but you're at a disadvantage of playing sports and just even being like the other kids and stuff. So
Yeah.
what's your vantage point on that?
It's really tricky, and I feel like it's a bit controversial for someone with no children to talk about parenting techniques. But honestly, like I have full empathy for people who like may say the wrong thing, so to speak, because like what is the right thing? Like it's so hard. You do want your kid to be a healthy weight, but then where's the line between telling them they're fat and lowering their self-confidence? And but I think like I guess to maybe like encourage sports and in my experience, encouraging performance was exciting, and maybe if you had a really overweight child and telling them like, oh, you'd be better at this sport and you probably enjoy it more if like, you moved a bit more and you trained a bit more and you ate a bit healthier, but
That's a great way to do it, because if you get the kid to want to move, which every kid, by the way, and people, people that are parents might not agree, but from what I've seen with my own kids and kids that have been around me, every kid wants to move. Every kid wants, I'll repeat myself a million times. Every kid wants to move. They really do. And they might get to an age where they don't want to move anymore, but that might be the point where it now gets to be hard to introduce a sport or introduce some form of exercise. But I like what you said there, because if you're encouraging that and you're like, hey, this is great that you're playing soccer, and if the team loses and stuff like that, and you can kind of maybe figure out a way to have some conversation. Hey, this is what the best soccer play. I know you really like soccer. This is kind of more along the lines of the way that some of these best soccer players eat, where you need your protein to build muscle so you're stronger when you're playing soccer, so you don't run out of breath when you're playing soccer.
Yeah.
Whatever dialogue you can have that I guess is almost like avoiding maybe negative talk, and it's just mainly all shifted towards positive. Like,
yeah.
this is an option and this is a route that you can go if you want to go that way, and you don't even mention what's the other direction.
Yeah. And that's actually have you heard of cognitive behavioral therapy? CBT.
I have not.
It's like a therapy, I guess, tactic, I don't know, method.
Do I need some of it, I guess.
Maybe you can probably use it in aspects of your life, but I've written assignments on it while I was at uni. But it's very common with eating disorders, and you don't tell someone, hey, you should lose weight because you're fat and you have low confidence and you're not going to be healthy and whatever. You like prompt the person to give the pros and cons, and then that kind of if they're like ambivalent about like changing their behavior or whatever, it kind of encourages them to come up with the ideas on their own and to be like, yeah, I do want this. No one's telling me I want this. I just want this. But I think I feel like there are genuinely men maybe in their late 30s, early 40s that are powerlifters that aesthetically are overweight. They've got like a large stomach or whatever. And I feel like they're really happy to just be that weight, and that's fine with them. But I don't feel like there are many maybe 14-year-old girls who are overweight, who are like, I just love the way that I look and I'm just completely happy to be, so it is kind of in their best interest, I think, to try and encourage them to lose the weight.
Yeah. I think it's also, you said you were super active as a kid in just terms of working, et cetera, which, when you got a sedentary job, that pushed you into lifting. So I feel like it's just necessary to get kids up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it'll lead you in the right direction later on, even if there are any issues.
Yeah. And I think I wonder too, like, I haven't read anything about like the science behind building a base strength when you're a kid and how that contributes to, you guys might have some input on that. But when I was a kid, I was just lifting heavy shit all the time. Like I had horses and I remember like the saddles, I was like trying to carry my saddle. I'd have to put it on my shoulder because I couldn't carry it in front of me. And like, and I wonder if that contributed to like me being good at strength sports.
Oh, fuck yeah, it did.
Yeah, you reckon?
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely think so. I mean, I noticed that too, like with a lot of, I can see the trend with people I work with that like start lifting in their 20s or whatever versus like kids that just did stuff, whether it's athletics or anything. The people that start younger trend to just like get stronger faster.
Yeah, sure.
It just tends to happen.
I think it's a coordination thing too. Actually, now that I say it out loud, I'll have girls come to me who have never lifted a weight ever. And I'm like, I'm going to show you how to deadlift. You just do it. We just do it with like no weight on the bar, And they give me a perfect deadlift and I give them like 2 cues and they fix the things that are wrong. And I say like, what have you done? You've done something. What have you done? They'll be like, I did gymnastics or I did boxing or and I'm like, you've been moving. Like you've had spatial awareness and you've developed some coordination.
Well, we know you can be very healthy without really ever stepping foot in a gym.
Of course,
you have good eating habits. You got some decent sleep habits, and you do other forms of exercises. You like to hike or do some other things. I mean, I think we've had some people on the podcast that refer to your health as like in regards to like a sprint. Like if you can go outside and nail like a 90% sprint, then you're probably pretty healthy.
Yeah,
but if you like blow out a tire, you blow out your calf or your a hamstring or something like that just from doing a sprint, then maybe you're not in that good a shape. And that's a great marker as you get to be 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, if you can still be able to do that, kind of in the blink of an eye without much of a warm-up or anything.
Yeah, definitely. And I see it too in nursing homes when like an elderly person, we call it when they start struggling with what we call ADLs, which is activities of daily living. So it might be showering, dressing, making the bed, that sort of thing. The people who struggle with it when they're older and they don't have the strength to press themselves out of an armchair, I wonder like if they were training triceps their whole life and they were doing dips forever, would they be able to get out of that chair right up until they died or for another 5 years or whatever, and I think it's like nursing's given me like another reason to especially like with my parents, I'm like, Dad, like come hit the gym with me because like one day you're gonna need this strength.
Yeah.
You can't stop. You got to figure out a way to keep moving because one day you'll kind of be stuck there.
Yeah.
And if you can figure out, it sucks because it's like the person doesn't really choose to want to be there. They don't choose to want to be unhealthy, but they kind of have at some point because life has overwhelm them at some point to the point where they really can't, they just don't feel good anymore. And if I'm like, hey, let's go for a jog and you feel kind of sick, you're like, I'm not going,
Yeah.
And so kind of talking yourself, okay, you know what, I'll go on a walk with you, but I can't run, what's a compromise? How can you get yourself or encourage just someone else just to freaking just try to figure out a way to keep moving,
Yeah, I think like how do you create incentive for an adult? Like it's not a child where you can say like, I'll buy you this toy if you, do a bit of this, do a bit of that. But I think just if you're find something, everyone has something that they enjoy. It took me a long time to find it. I tried lots of exercise that I hated before I found powerlifting. But I think everyone has something, even if you're 55 and you haven't found it yet, I'm sure it exists. I'm sure that everybody has like a physical activity that they can enjoy. But also like, I think you need to have empathy towards people who don't want to do that. I listened to a valedictory speech by Tim Minchin, who is an Australian comedian. He's a very intelligent man. He's an educated man. And he was talking about how you can't take full responsibility for your success because I can't help that I get up every day and I feel like going to the gym. That's not because I'm superior to people who don't want to go to the gym. That's just like a DNA thing. Like I'm just born that way. I'm just born a motivated person. In the same way that I can't help that I don't want to eat a salad. That's not my fault. Like I can't beat myself up about that because that another person who does like a salad, they didn't choose to like salad, and so I don't beat myself up about not wanting to eat well, and I don't judge other people for not wanting to exercise because I don't think I can take full credit for being a motivated person.
Yeah. Though, I do think that like, because I've seen a lot of people who in the past hated the gym, but when they managed to change their lifestyle and they found things that they're good at, boom, it becomes something that they're addicted to and they want to do that. So I think it's definitely possible for those who do hate it. They just like you just mentioned it, find something that they enjoy, whether like the movements you enjoy in the gym. You didn't like doing, I don't know, you didn't like running or sprinting in CrossFit, but you love squat, bench, and deadlift.
Yeah.
Right. So it drives you towards that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the same, like I would never go for a run, but love playing basketball. like I could play like back to back. I could play like 3 hours of basketball and I'd be exhausted, but I would love every second of it. So like that's what I should be doing, you know.
Did you play a lot of basketball as a kid, or is that something you started doing later?
Yeah, a little. I did it. This is wild, but it doesn't say much about the Australian public school system. But I did a unit in high school called basketball.
We don't have that.
And we just studied units, and we just studied teams.
Yeah.
And I studied the Denver Nuggets, and now I'm a fan. And because of all the people who are no longer in it, like.
Wait. Pause. In this class, you personally studied the Denver Nuggets and their history, and you wrote reports on the Denver Nuggets?
Yeah, player profiles and stuff. And then twice a week we'd go and just play basketball for a couple of hours.
So, like, what years Denver Nuggets?
Pardon?
Like, what years were you studying the Denver Nuggets?
I would have been in year 10, which would have been 10 years ago.
Okay, so then who are your favorites?
Oh, like Nene, JR.
Okay.
Who else?
Carmelo.
Okay, so that's fairly new. Okay, I was gonna throw some older names at you.
Yeah, no.
This is so interesting, though. Like, am I the only one who's kind of mind blown about this? That they have
U.S. school system's kind of lame, anyways, right?
Yeah,
we know that
we're really
way
lame.
behind.
It gets worse. I did a unit called Wheels, and it was just,
You just did hula
skateboarding
hoops? Okay.
and rollerblading or BMX, and you got to choose which one. And I chose rollerblades because
This
it was
is like
cheapest.
in college?
No, high school.
High school.
Yeah, and so
Well,
I learned
That
how to
makes a
drop.
lot of sense.
It does make some sense though to
Yeah.
have. So how many classes would you have that were kind of bullshit classes?
I think it would be
She's
one
like 20.
50-minute class, and then and then 2 double sessions. So like pretty much 2 hours and 1 hour. I think.
Wow.
So like 4. Is that 4 hours?
So
5
like
hours
per
a
week or per day?
Per week. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. But I learned how to drop in on a half pipe in rollerblades.
Oh shit!
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
What a useless skill. I don't know how to do my taxes, but I know how to drop in on a half pipe.
Oh.
That's kind of cool though. I mean, I
That's
think
hard.
that keeps school maybe more motivational in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Some options towards things that you like. I mean, unfortunately here in America, they have pulled a lot of options like that out, you know, where they don't have kids like learning wood shop and metal shop and like a lot of, you know, it's, you know, I don't know why. I don't know all the reasons for it. And I hate to complain about stuff that I don't know a lot about. And I hate to complain about stuff I don't have good solutions to. But it's odd. It's like, why would you pull some of that away? Like, I know that you can't get rid of like math and English either, but, you know, it's just like, it's kind of frustrating because you're like, man, like going to school seems really difficult nowadays. It seems like it's just way too boring to be able to do.
Yeah.
And in today's day and age, when everyone's attention has dropped drastically, even adults have like a 7-second time span or something. I mean, that's pretty quick. You know,
Yeah.
if you're not hitting the kids with something pretty cool in history class, then you're done. They're not going to pay attention to the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I think they've pulled PE a little bit too.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But you came back to your next class so fresh and so like happy to sit down after you just been to the skate park, like rolling around for an hour.
Okay.
So I think it was good.
How'd you get into, I guess, you are a practicing nurse currently. So you're a practicing nurse and you own a gym and you do online work. First off, how'd you get into the nursing? And currently, how are you managing all of this right now?
I'm exhausted.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going grey. Thanks for asking. Cosmetic injectables, that's how I'm managing. But basically, I just nursed because I finished high school and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I could see people around me doing nothing. And I decided to just throw myself into anything. So it was kind of just a responsible decision in terms of like, okay, I'll always have a job as a nurse. I can do it part-time. There's not many like degree requiring jobs where you can do them part-time. And that I can travel anywhere in the country with it, which is at the time is what I thought I wanted. So I just kind of studied nursing and I was like, yeah, see where it takes me. And yeah, it's just kind of like I describe it as a hobby. It's something that I do for fun. I love doing it, I think, because I don't have to. I think if I was a full-time nurse, I would hate the job, like punching the clock, taking lunch when you're told to take lunch. Like, I'm just not good at working for other people. I haven't done a lot of it at all. And, but I think because like I want to be there and I love it, I really like going there. And it's the only time of the week that I have like a really intelligent conversation with people a lot smarter than me. I'm talking to doctors who I'm in awe of. And I think that's like really stimulating intellectually, which is important. You hear like stay-at-home mums talk about like going to work to have like adult conversations and stuff.
Right.
Like lifting things is cool, but like, you know, loading plates for clients all day and talking about barbell biomechanics and stuff gets a little bit monotonous.
Yeah. when you have like a lot of these conversations with these doctors or other nurses, is there a trend of like I guess a lack of nutritional intervention or using physical exercise as interventions for issues
For patients?
versus, or is that not really?
Yeah, look, we have dietitians and things, but the circumstances under which you would give a dietitian referral would be like extreme weight loss in like an elderly person, or, you know, it's not really for like high blood pressure or these things that eventually are huge issues, but they're non-urgent at the moment. So yeah, I think it could be improved in that sense, but it really astounds me how, I was talking to a doctor the other day, and she's in neuroscience, and she's so smart. And she was saying, she was eating a salad, and she said, yeah, I'm cutting carbs. And I said, oh, why? Why are you doing that, bro? And she's like, because I want to lose weight. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that works. Like, why do you think cutting carbs makes you lose weight? And she's like, because carbs make you fat. They're fattening. And I was like, okay, bye. But I was like, you know, like it made me realize that we're in this industry where people know about nutrition and training, and it's common sense to us that like carbs don't make you fat, calorie surplus makes you fat. But not everyone knows that. Like you can be really smart and still not know about these things. And I really love the way that like all the nurses come to me and they're like, how do I lose like the weight around my midsection here? And I explain to them that like you can't spot reduce fat and like a calorie deficit and whatever. And sometimes they'll download like MyFitnessPal on their phone, and I'll show them how to use it and stuff. And I really like helping those people who don't have the confidence to come to a gym and, you know, pay for a service.
Especially like I know a lot of nurses, and honestly their lifestyle it's tough, especially the full-time nurses I know. Yeah. Right? Because like they work these weird hours, and apparently like a lot of them smoke, oddly enough.
Really? Yeah.
A lot of the nurses I know, it's like, and they even say, yeah, a lot of our coworkers smoke. It's like they help all these people, but their own lifestyle is like kind of in shambles. I don't know. Is it similar over there, or are nurses healthier there?
I feel like they're pretty healthy, to be honest.
Yeah?
I really do. I don't, like in my circle of friends, I know I'm like in the gym world and whatever, but I feel like if I see a young girl smoking, I'm like, damn, like I didn't think that people my age did that. You know, I thought it was so out of vogue. And even my dad says like when he was a kid, it was cool to smoke. And I don't think it's like cool to smoke as like, you know, even like that vulnerable, like 17, 18-year-old age kind of thing. Yeah. I did it, but yeah. But no, I feel like the nurses are their diet's probably better than mine, to be honest. Wow. And I'm supposed to be an athlete.
Are you allowed to prescribe or suggest stuff to patients? Like, because you do know a lot about like exercise and stuff. Do you, maybe someone's got like, I don't know, they have a bad back and you start explaining, you know, that, you know, getting to the gym, are you allowed to do stuff like that, or?
I think I'm allowed, but unfortunately, I just don't think time permits.
Right.
Yeah. I think I've got so many patients and so many tasks to fill up. You know, like in my head, I've got a backlog of 30 tasks that need doing that are all clinical and like have an element of danger to them in terms of like drug doses and stuff that I don't find that I would have a lot of time to sit down.
Yeah, you got like operating procedures that if you don't follow, someone could get hurt. So you don't have time to sit there and talk to someone about their deadlifts.
Yeah, that's right. And I work in emergency, which is like, it's an extremely, what's the word? Like, it's just a huge turnover of patients, and we're just drowning in there every day. Like it's so hard to keep up, and there's so much pressure to like get people in, get them well, or admit them and get them out, you know?
Yeah. Well, now since you have an online business, you have an in-person training business, you're very well known within the industry. What is it that I guess continues to bring you back to that? And is nursing something that you think you want to maintain for the rest of your life, or is there a point where you think you might just stop?
I think that people always ask me like, oh, when your business takes off, are you going to leave nursing? And I think it's the opposite. I think I desperately want to keep my nursing. It's becoming so hard to make time for that, you know? And so I really just want to do it forever. But I don't know, I guess you never know if there's, I don't know, maybe hopefully one day my income will be such that it seems silly to go to nursing, you know? It still is like financially counterintuitive, like in terms of time for labor. Yeah. But it's not so much that I'm like, this is a complete waste of my time.
What about if you could make a lateral movement to where you utilize a lot of the things you learned in nursing to consult with people, you know, to something like that?
Well, I'll spill the beans, but my next business is pretty much doing that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking at opening like a cosmetic injectables clinic where I live. And so I need to be a registered nurse for that. And I think that it's kind of in a roundabout way become like, because everyone says to me, oh, you don't use your nursing, what a waste. Like you're not a full-time nurse, you went to uni for all these years and what a waste. And so I think this is a way that I'm going to end up utilizing it.
So what would this place look like?
So I'm negotiating a lease at the moment, which has been pretty painful. But it's a 2-story building that I'm looking at. And yeah, downstairs would be a handful of injecting nurses, and upstairs would be like beauty therapies to kind of like bring some traffic into my waiting room in the hopes that it's a gateway drug to getting injectables.
Help people with exercise and stuff as well, or not really?
Not so much, but I think I'll keep my gym and keep like pay a group trainer on a weekend, and then my clients can use that for free. They can bring their parents or whoever they want to bring.
Why not say this? Why not say I can inject you with all the shit that I have in here, but if you continue to look that way, you're still going to be a mess. So why don't you hit up our gym that's downstairs? That would be...
That's great cross marketing.
That might help a lot. Maybe you should start there.
I like it.
You know what? Let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on, getting injections in the ass and implants and stuff like that? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like getting like some Botox, I don't know the specifics of like stuff in the lips and face. I feel like that is very different from augmenting your body in those ways. And I'm obviously, as a man, I have a very limited opinion on that, right? I can't say who should do what, but what is your opinion on stuff like that?
I think that like injectables are reversible, so I agree that they're a lower.
What are examples of injectables, since we don't know anything over here?
Lip fillers and Botox are probably the most common, anti-wrinkle and lip fillers, but people get like cheek fillers as well. I get my masseters, which is your jaw muscle. I get like a shitload of Botox injected in there because lifting I clench, and it gives me this big old square jawline. But that's all I really get done. That and occasionally here, and lip fillers. But my opinion is that, like, so I have a friend who has fake butt, fake boobs, like so many injectables, and everybody like bitches about it and says like, oh my God, it's too much, it's too much. And she says, I look so fake and I love it. She just wants to look fake, like Dolly Parton. She just really wants to look fake, and she thinks that looks fantastic, and she's not hurting anyone by doing that.
That's like a lot of people that lift. They say, I want to look like an action figure.
Yeah.
That's not like a realistic, normal physique.
No, I want to look masculine. You know, I want big shoulders and I want big arms, and like that's not conventional. So who am I to judge someone who wants like a big fake butt or whatever just because I don't like the way it looks? It's not really any of my business, I don't think.
That's fair. The thing and again, this kind of, I guess, I overstep my opinion here, overstep my bounds here. It's somewhat dangerous when I see, and I notice this within a lot of early 20s individuals, women, especially within the circle of like people my girlfriend knows, they get a lot of stuff done, and they all kind of look like the same person. Same person being which Kardashian is it? It's not Kim, it's Kylie. Like I see so many Kylies that I'm just like,
that's true.
Like, and it's crazy. I'm just like, I don't know if that's. I don't know.
It's like, do they all go to the same doctor, or
it's
like,
just the same? It's the same,
like same
exact look.
Yeah.
But how is that different to? Right now there's an oversized t-shirt trend, and I love it. Yeah. I'm wearing oversized t-shirts. So if I go in a room with other girls dressed casually, we're all going to be dressed kind of the same. And like I have like ripped jeans. I like ripped jeans. Everyone else is wearing them. Like,
or what about powerlifters? Everyone's got a goatee and they're bald.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
true.
And neck rolls.
Same thing. Yeah.
We all kind of want to look like The Rock, right? We're all balding and.
Yeah,
fair.
That's it. But yeah, I think it's just a trend. But yeah, it's a little bit more dangerous because like one, it's more expensive than buying an oversized t-shirt.
Yeah.
But two, some of it is not reversible.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have breast implants.
Oh.
And
what? What the hell?
We gotta shut this down.
You're not.
That's all the time we got for today.
Thought you were natty.
What? You're not 14% body fat with double D's? Wild. I just did it for the bench ROM.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually very smart.
That's why I got a big old bench.
Does it help?
No, I think my arch is such that like the bar hits below my breasts. Yeah.
Damn. Can't win them all.
But it feels weird, and it looks really weird. Like I think that like I think the argument of women not wanting to get bulky is completely valid. If you don't want to look jacked, then you don't have to look jacked, and that's okay. And I'm not here to judge you for that. But I think that like I love my muscles. I love that like I think I look like fairly muscular, but my chest is disgusting. It's so gross.
Like without the implants?
I think it's like the implants. So I got the implants before I ever started lifting.
Okay.
And now it's like this big old chest with these round implants stacked on top. And I'm told that like it pushes them out as your chest develops, it pushes the implants out. So my breasts are quite far apart. And then I have like this underside kind of pec going. I don't know. I just don't think that like conventionally large pecs are really sexy
You
on
need
a
to like
woman.
move them around or something.
Pardon? I can. You want to see?
Pec popper. There you go.
I made a video with like Kevin Oak and that of
I
like
think
us.
you need a bench shirt. You ever been in a bench shirt
I
before?
really want to.
It jams them. It jams them up. See if you can pull up a picture. I got my titties all jammed up. Mine are probably furrier than yours, but you know,
Definitely furrier.
yeah, they're pushed. You know.
But I even have scabs on my knees from knee wraps. Imagine the bench shirt bite
yeah.
marks. But in
Yeah,
Australia,
you get killed on it.
in Australia, men and women in all weight classes, registered powerlifters in any federation in equipped lifting, there's like 70 something. So how many of those do you think are in the under 60 kilo females class?
Right. But you can
I
break
think-
all the records.
Yeah, I'm sure by default I'm probably the best the best equipped bencher in Australia.
Yeah, the geared powerlifting isn't much of a thing. Do you still compete in powerlifting, or are you kind of going back and forth between strongman stuff?
Yeah, I think powerlifting is definitely my primary sport, and I just did a meet a couple of weeks ago at Hybrid, and I plan to pursue it further. But I think that strongman is kind of like an off-season thing for me. I think I get bored of doing the same thing, and I think too when you have a powerlifting meet, you go from like training every day because you want to training every day because you've committed something that now you feel like you have to do. So I think after a meet, I just want to like YOLO for a few weeks, and I'll do like a whole lot of, I hit that heavy log triple here yesterday because I was like, oh, I just want to throw something different around.
Yeah. Have you seen your strongman? Has it helped your powerlifting at all?
I mean, it's hard to measure, but I think that like I do so many different deadlift variations now. My deadlift's flown up. So like axle bar deadlifts, although in Australia we're allowed to use straps for axle bar, so it doesn't really make any sense. But
Okay.
yeah, and I'm sure like the overheads had to carry over to my bench as well.
And like,
You find you like the variety a lot of doing so many different like movement, going from powerlifting to strongman, being like, I'm focusing on this for 2 months, I'm focusing on that for 3 months.
Yeah, I think so. And like you might not train an event for years and years and years, like because you're only training the events that are in your next competition generally. And even if you are training, like let's say you're training axle deadlift, it might be rising bar, it might be for reps, it might be for time, it might be max, it might, there's so many different ways. It might be with straps, without. So there's just so many variations of. There must be like 1,000 strongman events if you count all the variations.
yeah, you're super strong, and you said you started off the 4x12s, but I guess within the last year and a half, what does your training look like now? Like, what does the structure of your training look like?
I do a lot of linear progression just because like I just like how predictable it is, and I like knowing what numbers I'm going to hit, and and I think like if it's not broke, don't fix it, and I think the basics work. But my training is like a little bit repetitive. I probably only have like 40 accessories, or maybe a bit more, that I use, and I kind of just rotate them in blocks.
Do you say 40?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it just really basic stuff. Lots of dumbbells, not many machines. Lots of dumbbells and barbells, basically.
Wow. And then you also mentioned like, I think it was interesting. You mentioned that you want to get really big, but you're finding it really, really hard, right? Like you're working to try and get bigger muscles and you can't.
Yeah.
I think that, that's a really good point to mention, because you're training really fucking hard, and like I'm not saying you're not jacked, but you don't look like massive.
No.
And a lot of women seem to be like scared of even touching a barbell because they think
right.
if I lift a little bit, I'm going to become massive.
Yeah. But I think that's like not buying a bike because you don't want to win the Tour de France. Like the risk is low.
That's a really good way to put it, by the way.
And there's going to be
love that.
There's going to be plenty of places to like call it before then, know. But yeah, I think that like it doesn't happen overnight, and you can stop at any time, and it is reversible. So if one day I decide I don't want to be jacked, I can just like detrain, you know. But I think I've definitely had some atrophy since I hurt my back, and even since I stopped doing bodybuilding movements and have been doing more, like I don't really do a whole lot of like lat raises and like front raises and real ISO exercises.
Any idea how you hurt your back?
Not really. I just did a really heavy triple that looked amazing, and it was a PR. And it was,
Deadlift?
Squat. Sorry. And it looked so good, and I've watched it 1,000 times and can't pick anything wrong with it. And the next day, I just couldn't pick a barbell off the ground. Like we were running a powerlifting meet, and I couldn't like set up the warm up room. And then it just didn't get any better at all for like months and months and months. But I'll be the first to admit that like when you say I'm working really hard to like gain muscle, first to admit I didn't do everything I could have possibly done to maintain my strength, and I was a bit disheartened, and I was like, oh fuck it, I can't squat. I give up on my lower body a bit,
Okay.
So yeah, I wasn't doing as much like belt squatting as I could have, and Zercher squatting, and
Looking back, is there something you could have avoided maybe? you know, so you wouldn't. I mean, I think it's kind of inevitable you get hurt here and there, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's so frustrating because no, I don't think so. Like, I feel like my squats look great, you know? Like, I don't know. I don't feel like I did anything different to what I've ever done. And I feel like my volume was appropriate and my recovery was amazing because I was pretty much full-time athlete at the time. So I was just like eating and sleeping perfectly and training really well. And my coach was there with me and was supervised and, you know, I don't know.
there's a lot of times as athletes we're like, yep, like I did that one to myself, you know, where
Yeah,
you can just say like, I can chalk that up to, you know, just not learning from my previous mistakes, and I shouldn't have trained today. I was still sore from a previous workout. I felt a tweak in my back. I already knew these things, and then sure enough, boom, you blow something out. But every once in a while, you're just like, man, it's so disappointing. You're like, I can't figure out where this came from.
Yeah, I think sometimes shit just happens.
Do you have like a timeline for, I guess, when you might be wanting to do your next competition?
I'm really torn because I kind of want to do nationals this year, but I feel like I want to rebuild my squat. Like, I'm not really that interested in staying at a low body weight for a long time and not getting a lot stronger. And as we know, like, the more you can, like, you're not really getting stronger in like the month surrounding a meet. You're not really getting stronger when you're doing like heavy singles and doubles and whatever. So I would just love to do like a volume block. So I think the right thing to do would be to take more time off again.
Yeah.
You ever tried conjugate stuff, like Westside stuff?
No, not really. Not since I very first started powerlifting. But yeah, I'm definitely open to like changing up the structure of my training.
Might be good to try out for a while. You know,
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of value in a lot of different training systems, but just when I look at a lot of the lifters that did Westside barbell stuff, I mean, you don't see as many, you know, that do it still to this day, but I personally feel, and it's probably just my own bias towards it, I personally feel there's a lot less injury, you know, from what I've seen from a lot of lifters. There's still lifters that are lifting huge weights that have done it, you know, they've done it for a long time, doing some Westside barbell stuff, but I don't think that you have to all of a sudden switch over and be like, I'm just doing Westside.
Sure.
I don't think you need to do that. I think the same thing is true with diet. You know, there's a lot of effective ways to diet, and I don't think you need to be so dogmatic and saying like this, you know, I'm doing this one thing. I think you can utilize many methods. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
But mixing in some box squats or something like that, you did great on those today. I think that would be a huge plus for you.
Yeah, and I think something I could take away from Westside is how little of the main three that they do and still get strong. Like, they don't even hit like full depth squats for like the whole prep sometimes.
I think it's so valuable from a mental standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, people used to ask me all the time, like, how do you go to the meet? And like, how do you do that at the meet? I'm like, well, I'm never worried about it. I just, you know, I train heavy on these other movements, and like, but what's the conversion of a safety squat bar squat with bands to, you know, your free squat? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was never something I was really worried about, but I just tried to go as like the day was a max effort day. So I just tried to go as heavy as I could with that movement for that particular day. And there was less anxiety. I didn't have a 3x3 to do with X amount of weight. You know, when you look at that on your paper and you see that like 3 weeks down the road, you're like, holy shit, who wrote that in? You know,
Yeah.
My coach wrote that in there for me. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit that. And then your training goes pretty good, but even when your training's going well, you still see that number. It comes up, and a day before and a couple days before you go in and do the lift, you're kind of talking to yourself. You're like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah. Is it going to be there on the day?
And you don't get that with the Westside stuff.
But I think that sounds great, and I agree with you. But I think in terms of like my beginner to intermediate clients, they need to have a weight prescribed, because I put an RPE in there and I put an RPE scale on the program so they can look at it while they're at the gym, and I give them a handbook that explains what RPE is and why we're using it and like whatever. And
no question, they need direction for sure.
Yeah, and then they send me their squats and I'm like, bro, you could have done 40 of them. Like, that was pointless, you know.
Yeah, it's hard for, especially like a beginner individual, it's hard for them to really gauge what's tiring and what's like, you don't know your limit yet. You don't even know when you're close to it.
No.
So.
Yeah, and if you haven't been around other people who are training, you know, like grinding reps, then like you might not know that anyone does that.
Yeah, and honestly, so you've been training not lifting, but you've been doing powerlifting training for 2 years?
Yeah, 2.5 maybe. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing lifting in general? How many years?
I'm taking a punt. I feel like every time someone asks me, I give a different answer. Maybe like since 2015, so maybe 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. Yeah, honestly, like, I guess linear progression still makes sense, because it feels, I think since you've been doing powerlifting for such a little amount of time, and yeah, you've gained a lot of strength, it's crazy to say, but you're still probably in a lower intermediate level lifter in terms of how much you can gain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because like I think that was the case for me even when I think I managed to pull 7 something at a point. I wasn't an advanced lifter at that point.
Yeah.
I still think I had so much left. I was probably an intermediate level lifter at that time just because there was so much I could have continued to get stronger with.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think too, like when you're a small female, if I put 10% on my total in a year, that's only a few kilos. But if you put 10% on your totals in a year, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
And so I say it to my clients with bench a lot. I'm like, man, like once you get to a certain level, if you can put like 5 pounds a year on your bench, like you're nailing it, you know, especially if you're at like a light body weight. So yeah, it's hard to imagine that like there's another 10 kilos in my bench press, you know, at this body weight.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, but I think there's like some number milestones that I want to hit that I will gain weight to do. Like I want to hit 100 kilo bench.
Oh shit!
And
what's your bench right now?
92 and a half is my best bench in the gym.
Okay.
But which is like 203 pounds or something, I think. But yeah, I'd love to hit that 100 kilos, and if I have to get heavy to do that, like I'll probably do it.
Okay.
I want to tell my grandkids I benched 100 kilos. You know?
Yeah.
How's the deadlift?
Yeah, it feels good. It was always my worst lift. And I think it was the one that not having a coach for so long, I picked up a lot of bad habits, and it took a really long time to get those habits out. And I wasn't disciplined enough to like take a step back, bring the weight down, nail it, and then build my strength back up. But I feel like it's getting there now.
What do you think about the other females? How strong everybody's getting? It's been unbelievable, right? I mean, like how long have you been in powerlifting for?
Only like 2.5 years.
Yeah, like even in that time span.
Oh, wild.
Like, and
Wild.
you said you lifted at hybrid, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of someone like Steph Cohen?
Wild.
What did she squat, like 550 or something, or 520? What was it? I don't even remember now. But
Yeah.
it was something crazy. So it was
Yeah.
another world record. She's got like 30 of them or something.
Yeah. And then like my friend, so what I totaled at my first ever novice comp, she won nationals with that total like 6 years ago, whatever. That's a joke in nationals now. You know, like the standard's just like through the roof, and it's going to continue to be.
Yeah.
You know, we're all going to get left behind.
Oh, it's terrible. That's why I got out of the way. And he's like, I'm going to do something different.
I'm just gonna roll with men all day.
Yeah. Tie people up like a pretzel. We all know that this is a fact, is that women don't poop, right? Like women don't use the toilet. Like we
Hot
all
chicks don't poop.
Yeah, we've seen the book, everyone poops, but we learned later on that that's not true. Women don't poop, right?
Yep, that's true. Absolutely.
Before we go on this road, because
This is a long dirt road.
This is going to be a long, shitty road. In your case, you have, I guess, a history of poop since you were young, correct? Like it started in the youth.
It did.
So I think we're going to probably have about 5 poop stories.
Oh
here.
my gosh, we're sharing them all.
Yeah.
Well, we agreed prior to this podcast that we would omit the ones that involve criminal activity.
Oh.
So that's where I draw the line.
Damn it. Okay, well, let's start from the beginning with young Paige. Young Paige's first ever poop story.
I mean, how big could you possibly poop? You're a very small person.
No, I poop like a rabbit, and it's gotten me in trouble before. So when I was, I'm very public about the fact that I was an exotic dancer, a stripper, for quite some time. And I remember, so I don't do one big poop a day, and I've never really pooped a log. I'm a rabbit pooper. Okay.
You mean never? You've never pooped a
I
log?
may have, maybe if like I was unwell.
Okay.
Like that's
okay.
me with diarrhea.
Okay.
But you just poop often, maybe.
Yes, exactly. Frequently. Yeah,
Could you give
I'm a
us
grazing pooper.
a hand size of how big they generally are?
Anywhere between a speck that's so small that I'll like send a photo to my friends to be like, look how pathetic this is, and like this is like a big one.
Small pellets.
That's big.
Okay.
So probably has something to do with my terrible diet. Right? So I don't do one big poop a day. I do a few little poops throughout the day.
Yes.
Right, and I go to pee and I get like 2 surprise.
Kind of like my dog.
You go to pee and you get some surprise.
Yeah, right. So like I go in there for one thing, I get more than I bargained for, and I get out of there.
That's tricky when you're a guy and you're standing up. And you're like,
yeah,
whoops.
Oh,
You're like,
yeah.
all right, I better turn around and take care of the rest of it.
Yep.
So I was doing a private function as a stripper, and I hated private functions so much, and I wouldn't do them. So I would just overquote. I'd be like, look, I do them, but like it's going to be $1,000. I'm only going to be there for an hour and a half. And then occasionally they'd be like, okay. And I'm like, oh, fuck, now I've got to do it, right? So I went to this private function. I hired a security guard to come with me. And the guys were the nicest guys ever. They were amazing. And I got there, and it's like an hour and a half drive from where I live, and I'm addicted to Coke Zero. And so by the time I got there, I'd had like a lot of Coke Zero, and I was like, man, I need to pee. Like I was busting. And it was like a surprise for the guy's birthday. So I get there, and he's like, oh my God, it's biker video. I can't believe it. Like, it's my birthday. This is the best time ever. And I'm like, yeah, can I use a toilet? Like now. I was busting. So I went in there just to pee. And I just had like one little rabbit poop come out. And I was like, that's okay. And the guys are like, we need to pee too. Like they're all drinking and they're like banging on the door. I'm like, no worries. So I flushed the toilet.
A floater.
Oh. And I was like, fuck. Like, because you only get 2 flushes, don't you? Any more than 2 flushes and people think you have a problem. So I'm like, man, okay, I'm going to be smart here.
It's also, very risky because it might overflow and everything else.
Yeah, right?
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, I'll put like a heap of toilet paper on it to like help push it down the toilet. So I did. Nothing. All toilet paper went down and my little buoyant poop remained. And I was like, I'm out of flushes. I'm out of flushes. And I thought, I'm going to give it one more and then like shit's going to go down. And so I pretended to blow my nose. And I was like blowing my nose in there thinking like maybe they'll think toilet paper, you know. Flushed it. No, still
Like
there.
as if they're waiting outside the door with their ears
there
to the
was a
door.
queue. There was a
They're
queue. And they're banging on the door and I'm like, oh my God. And this is like the most pressure I've ever been under in my life. So I did what any woman would do. I fished it out and I put it in the bin. It was horrible.
Did you maybe wrap like a little bit of the toilet paper around as
No,
like
I
a
didn't
barrier?
hold it for that long. I put toilet paper on
know?
top of it. No, there was no barrier. It was just bareback.
And the guys later talked about like, remember we had that stripper and she like had her poop in the garbage barrel?
Yeah. Right. Oh, bad.
Oh God.
Bad. But I feel like a lot of my poop stories are very much revolved around dancing and my time as a dancer.
Well, yeah, you be careful.
But
I'd
yeah, you
imagine.
do. You do have to be careful. Yeah, and there's been accidents. Not me, but there's been accidents. But there was this one girl that we worked with once. I said I wouldn't tell this story, but there's a girl with a social media following about the size of mine, and she was super hot, and her and I kind of had a bit of a thing together, right?
Okay.
And she was, all strippers love money, we know that, but she was like, money hungry, and she would do anything for the money. And so she would convince customers that like she really wanted to date them and whatever. So you would get regular customers and they would kind of come and go. Some would last years, some would last weeks. And sometimes they were often giving you, I had one guy who would come and book me for 9 hours at $400 an hour, and he was traveling 6 hours each way to come and see me, and he was coming for years. And she put like customers and their money before any of her friendships or anything. So it took us a while, but eventually we worked out that she was like trying to turn all of our customers against us and saying like, oh, Paige said these horrible things about you, and Paige sold the jewelry that you bought her, and Paige, like she was kind of, and sometimes the things were true. Like maybe we had kind of complained about our customers to your friends, like everyone in every industry does that. But a lot of it was just completely made up. And so we found out about it. And I said to my friends, I said, don't tell her that we know. And they were like, oh, this isn't good because there's been some revenge poops in the past. Like I have a history of this. And they were like, all right, do your thing. We'll leave it with you. So we used to do what we call a lesbian show. And so you'd have like a bucks party or a bachelor party and you would pretend to go down on each other. And it was quite fake. Like your hair's kind of covering everything and whatever, but your face is still in close contact. But everything's very clean because like we're baby wiping all the time, like an unhealthy amount. Like every time you pee, you baby wipe a lot, And then sometimes for a lot of extra money, this girl and I would just pretend to eat each other's butts. Right. And we were nowhere near each other because like the cheeks are so big, like you don't have to really get in there, right? So one night on the way to work, I stopped by a drugstore and I grabbed some laxatives.
Oh no.
And I took them and I pooped and I did not wipe. And mind you, I had to walk around unwiped. Undiarrhea wiped for some time to get the timing perfect.
That's commitment.
And we got into this, and I knew the guys wouldn't be able to see it, but I knew that she would fucking know about it. So we went in there and she's going down on me, like pretending to, whatever, it's fine. And then I turn around, she's pretending to eat my ass, and she goes to me, she whispers to me, have you just shat recently? And I said, no. Oh my God, no. One of the guys probably farted. Do it again. And she did. Twice she did it. And then at the end of it, she came back and she's like, dude, I think you've like shit yourself. And I said, yeah, it was on purpose. And that's how we told her. And that was her last night working there. She changed clubs.
Oh God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
By the way, I left out the most important part. Jess has just reminded me. It was visible on her face.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus.
Brutal.
Yeah. It was bad.
Oh no.
Okay. Were there any other revenge poops that weren't crying?
No, I think that's it.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. How about couch poops? Oh, yes.
Oh, see, some of these no one knows about, and if they hear this podcast, they're going to know about it. But I lived in a share house with like a group of dudes, and it was a fun house, and we had like a suede couch. And one day I was sitting with like kind of like a little bit reclined, but with my feet up against, I guess, my butt, like, I don't know. And I farted, and I had no symptoms of any kind of diarrhea, and just liquid came out. And I was wearing like sexy like mesh undies that weren't that sexy anymore after this, and it just went straight through the mesh. And I was like, that is like liquid, like what the hell? So I cleaned it like as best I could. I don't know what I used, maybe like a wet towel or something. Cleaned it, and then a few weeks later, we were having we were drinking heavily at our house. We're having like a party. And we're talking about this massive couch that we had. And the guys are like, oh, which is your favorite spot? Like, you know, some of the guys are fighting over the same spot all the time. And I said, oh, I don't mind all of them except for that one because it smells like shit. And they were like, what do you mean it smells like shit? I'm like, smell it, bro. And so one of the guys told me, he's like, it literally smells like shit. Like, it hurts my eyes. And I was like, told you, dog.
Gotta flip that
man.
cushion over.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. So that's what got the name Paigey Poo.
That's what my family call me. Yeah. But I don't know. I really like poo story, and I think it's like intimate to share a poo story with someone. Like if a girl sends me a photo of her poop, I'm like, damn, like we're on a level. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you haven't sent any other bitches photos of your poop. Like I'm special.
You guys are bonding.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. It's intimate.
Well, it was awesome having you here today. Really appreciate you sharing all kinds of crazy stuff with us. Your lift
You're
through it
welcome.
story was awesome. Your poop stories were on another level. And,
Another level.
Appreciate it. Where can people find you?
My Instagram is Biker Biddy, not Biker Birdie, as Ed Cohen came up to me and called me at Pro Raw. Biker Biddy. I'm on all the socials, but I mostly use Instagram.
By the way, what's a biddy?
A biddy is like a really annoying chick that like you just want to fuck off. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yes, that's me.
Cool.
Where can people find you, Andrew?
You guys can hit me up on Instagram at I am Andrew Z. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project Podcast. That's also on Instagram. Huge shout out to Perfect Keto for sponsoring this episode. Head over to perfectketo.com/Power Project. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project 10 for $10 off any order of 40 or more. If you hit up $100 or more, use promo code Power Project Bundle for $25 off. Nsima, where you at?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube.
And what does your shirt say, by the way?
Oh, what does it say? It says Behemoth winner 1 year running,
Hey.
and then the Nigerian flag.
Nice.
Yes. Yes. So we'll talk about that more later.
Absolutely.
But yeah, at Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, at Nsima Yinyang on TikTok and Twitter.
Yeah, congratulations, dude.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Beating Chad Wesley Smith. Was there anything about grappling with him that surprised you?
I was assuming he was going to be strong, really strong, which he was. But when I was actually rolling with him, it wasn't really that bad. Wasn't too surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, trying to convert your strength over to the mat versus what you can do in powerlifting, I would imagine are, you know, very, very separate things.
Yeah.
I asked him, you know, how the match, you know, went. I was teasing him and stuff, going back and forth, but he just said that like he just couldn't get your hands off of him. You know, you had your hand like I think maybe like under his like neck or collar, or
collar
something.
and a sleeve. Yeah.
And he was just like, I didn't have any defense or strategy to get that to get him off of me. And I thought it was actually really cool because Chad is a very technical person. You know, we know from his lifting background. He's a very technical person, and he basically just admitted he was just like he was way stronger than me, and I didn't have a defense for it. I thought that was really
surprising.
I thought that was a cool compliment because I'm like, damn, like Chad would never say he's not strong enough for something unless it was like 100%
Oh
true.
man, that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I'm surprised about that.
He
That's
said,
cool.
yeah, just lack of experience and then not having a defense to get those big old meat hooks off of him. anyway, congratulations, dude. I think that's a big deal. I know, you know, you've had a lot of success in jiu-jitsu already, but I just think that things like this are just another kind of feather in your cap towards the ultimate goal.
Yes.
And getting your black belt and all that stuff. So congratulations. It's super awesome.
Thank you.
We're all pumped and proud of you. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell on all different forms of social media. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you all later.
See ya.